First things first, Amy, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm getting by. Music is helping me cope with this crazy year.
Well, let me go back then to the beginning when you first fell into music. Was it always kind of like a refuge for you?
Yeah, totally. Um, it's funny. I've always loved music. I grew up in a musical home. My dad was a radio DJ, and he'd always bring home like whatever new music he would get free, tapes or CDs or whatever from the station. And he also worked at a broadcasting company. So when I was really little, I could go up to his office and put on records on the big sound system and just
Mm.
dance and play and listen to music. So I grew up around it, loving music. Um, and as I got a little bit older, I thought that I wanted to be like a composer, like a dramatic Mozart, like genius, because you can learn how to be a genius, right? Crazy composer. Totally did the thing where you lay down on the piano seat and like cross your hands and play upside down.
Did you try
um,
that?
yeah. Oh yeah. I could do a little piece like that. It took way too much work. I'm just visualizing myself doing it now, and it's so embarrassing. Um, anyway, I grew up loving music, and then it really became for me around when I became a young teenager, a place to pour out a lot of my angst and my fears and my
Mm.
frustration and my pain and other things too, my yearning, my longing, like just all the big feelings we start to have when we become adults. And it really has been just one of the most positive forces in my whole life to be able to channel,
Mm.
especially the challenges and the difficult parts of my life, into making music that is beautiful to me, that I love, to be able to turn something bad into something that is good. Like if something good comes out of it, it kind of makes it just feel like, to some degree, like your struggle was worth it.
Mm. Well, I can imagine laying yourself bare in that way, and especially as you got more popular. Did that come naturally to you? To I don't want to. I don't know if expose is the right word, but to show that much of yourself.
No, that was hard. I, it's easier for me to sing what I think and feel than to say it.
Mm.
Um, so I kind of, especially when I was younger, like learned how to let that be a compartmentalized free place where they don't have to know what I'm talking about. They don't have to know if this is real for me. Maybe I'm just telling a story, but uh, almost all the time I was telling real truths about
Mm.
how I was feeling and what I was going through. And it just created a place where I was allowed to say all those things without it being weird or making somebody uncomfortable.
And now you've used that voice, or you started to use that voice in a different way. It's not as much looking inward anymore. You started to look outward. Now, what gave rise to this? I don't know if it's confidence or something that happened, but what gave rise to this desire to kind of use your voice in a different way?
Part of it is the confidence of growing up, and perspective change. But I have never been through a time where I felt like there was something so dire and messed up as the times we're living in. Um, I think the real answer is just conviction. I do kind of typically shy away from being on social media all the time and following the comments and stuff. That can be hard for me. Sometimes it sort of distracts me from thinking about, I don't know, my own perspective of myself. I kind of don't like to get caught up in. I never used to read my own interviews. Like I
Okay,
never want to hear it again. Like it just makes me feel weird and insecure. Like I've
okay.
gotten past that to some degree. But it's still a little bit of a challenge. Just being, somebody that everybody sees is just kind of an interesting dynamic. I'm a lot more used to it and comfortable with it than I was when I was young. But yeah, like putting yourself out there in that way, no matter who you are, it takes some courage. But I got to a point where, you know, things are going on all over the world. This isn't just a US thing.
Sure.
We're all fighting for our voices to be heard, for the people's voice to count, for democracy in our world. It's in trouble. But particularly watching something so personal happening at home and just feeling like, what's going on? Why don't we have any control over this abuse of power? Why is this happening? I I just felt the conviction. The song was coming out on its own
Right.
because that is my free place to not worry about it. And then as I started hearing the lyrics back, like happens to me sometimes, I'll listen back and go, oh, wow, I said that. I was just listening when we were mixing it, and there was a lot going on at the time. It was in the spring here in the States, and it was just all really ramping up. I just felt this conviction in my own words to myself going like, I'm saying, use your voice and be clear about what you're saying and stand up for what you're believing. And I'm not doing that. I'm writing a song. That's good. But I need to make it clear what I really mean. And so I started it's not any big deal, but I guess, but I just decided I have to make this about that. I want to inspire and encourage people to vote and to get active and pay attention to what's going on, because we need to change things for our world as a whole. And that's going to come from working together, not fighting each other, for real.
You were writing that song and you kind of realized, well, I'm singing about it, but I'm not actually doing something. So what was the trigger then that got you into action?
It really was just a moment of me sitting there listening to mixes. I mean, there has been so much thing after thing after thing to go, man, that's not right. It wasn't like there was one more thing. It's a huge accumulation of stuff to fight for and to stand against, for sure.
And when obviously the elections are next week, and part of that whole song Use Your Voice is connected to the headcount movement and getting people out to vote. And this is going to sound like a very stupid question, but why is it important to vote?
Because that's the way that it's supposed to work, is that our voices we elect our leaders, we run our countries. Like, that is how it's supposed to work. And it only works if everybody participates, if everybody chimes in on everything, all the leaders, all the issues, all the stuff, then we can understand what the people, everybody needs, not just what I need, not just what somebody else needs in a totally different situation. We need to be able to accommodate everyone. Everybody's voices need to be heard so that everybody can be taken care of.
And especially in I want to go into the kind of politics of it a little bit, if that's okay, because the way the electoral system is set up in the US is a bit strange, with all the states having those electoral votes. So yes, how do you kind of make sense of that whole system? How do you make it? Because the way I'm an outsider, I'm a European, so it's different. But the way I see it,
and I'm curious as to actually what yours is. You get to go next.
Well, because the way I see it is kind of you're almost having the choice between a rock and a hard place. That's how I see it. A lot of
it always feels that way. It really does. But I mean, quite simply, I think our system's broken. I really do. I think we just need change in a really big way. Things get outdated, things get changed. It's just we need to progress. We need to move forward in general. How does it work in Finland? Like, obviously you guys are a democratic society, but how does it work when you're voting for your leaders?
Oh, I'm in the Netherlands, but it's a parliamentary.
Sorry, I just got off. Don't put that in there, damn it.
No, I'll cut it out.
How's it work? How's it work in the Netherlands? How does it work?
The way I think, I mean, I'm more aware of the US system than the Dutch system for some reason. But the way it works is we have a parliamentary system, and you vote for a house, and then you also vote for another house. It's difficult to explain.
Yeah, that's right.
But there's multiple parties. You have a lot of options, and there's, I would say, more civility in our politics.
Right. I feel like there used to be in ours as well.
Well, that's the thing, because I did try to watch the debates, and I struggled. I will admit.
Yeah, you're so into it for somebody so far away. That's
it's going to sound
that's embarrassing.
But I have a degree in American studies, so that's why. But it's a strange thing.
Cool.
But let's get back into the music and the song then, because what do you hope then that the country, this is going to be way too grandiose, but what do you hope that the country will do come next week?
We need healing in such a big way. It's going to take some time. That's just the truth of it. We've become pretty divided, and the truth has gotten really buried. So I just think it's going to take time for us to heal. But I do believe we will heal. I think that a brighter future is possible for, oh God, everybody all over the world. Like things can get better, but it's going to take some work. Like we all just have to stand up and use our voices.
Right. And now you mentioned the word truth, and obviously you're working on an album called The Bitter Truth, and as you said, it's getting buried. It's very difficult these days to discern what is true and what is not. What for you is the bitter truth? What made you think kind of or realize this thing? Well, it might not be easy, it might not be pretty, but I have to face that truth.
It's about a lot of things, not just political.
Sure.
That title, The Bitter Truth, what it really means is that who you are, bruises, scars, everything included, the real truth of who you are is better, is more important. We have to face who we are, and the world that we live in, as it is. It doesn't help anything to pretend about who you are or about the world around you. Nothing is, first of all, ever going to improve if we deny the truth. We're never going to save our planet by ignoring its needs. We're never going to be able to improve as people if we can't ever admit when we're wrong. Just simply facing the truth, painful as it can be, it's the only way. It's the only way to healing. So this has been a season of, heading towards healing myself. I lost my brother a couple of years ago. And that process, this mind-opening time has been big on perspective, and just this need to face it. I don't want to escape. I don't want to run away. I want to lean in to love. And also the only way to heal, I know, is to take it and look at it and think about it and write about it. So the bitter truth is just facing reality. It doesn't have to be bad. It can be the best. But life is complicated, and we are complicated. We're not all one thing, and you can't know somebody just by looking at them or meeting them one time. Like, people have a lot going on all at once. For me personally, I'm, especially in the music, always striving to be the truest version, most honest version of myself that I can be.
Well, with that in mind, then, and especially if we talk about the album sonically, how do you manage then to keep that identity, but also move forward?
Yeah, well, we started by getting back on the road a couple of years ago. First, we went down two like big paths. First, we did this. Well, we were playing shows before this, but we did this full orchestra plus electronica experience that really focused on a side of our music that usually takes a little bit of a backseat. It's always been a part of it, but never been the forefront. The band's always more the forefront. So we took this moment to sort of go down a specific train of a piece of what Evanescence is for about a year. And then we went, okay, now the other side. And we started just getting back to our roots of playing live shows, revisiting all of our older songs, picking and choosing and playing with them, and just remembering. And what that did, especially with the really older songs, this lineup has changed a lot since when Fallen was being toured. So for us to look at that again now and say, what what are we now in that? Like, what does this band sound like playing those songs? It's not the same.
Mm.
It's better. It's grown. It's just become something more. We're older. We've been doing this for a while. To start from that root of like, who were we? Who are we in that now? Then to take that, not to go, okay, let's be that again, just to take it and know it and understand it and put it down and then go, okay, now let's write some music.
Mm.
That was all kind of part of the plan towards the next thing. And it's been really, really good because you have to look at who you already have been first, I think, before taking a true step forward. And it is a step forward, but it's rooted in what this band's always been and who I've always been. But it's just from a new perspective in a new time.
And when you look towards kind of the rest of the album being completed, and obviously 3 songs have been released already to positive reviews, and Evanescence means obviously a great deal to you. What for you? How did you see the reaction to the songs and to kind of new music? Because you don't put out music every year. It's are not under the Evanescence name. So did it
Right.
bring along with it any pressure or any concern maybe?
No, just happiness.
Okay.
I honestly just felt a lot of relief after it being so long, to put something out. Like when we put out Waste on You, I kind of right at the beginning of the lockdown here in States,
Mm.
it felt so good. It just felt nothing but good just to have a way to connect because I know our fans love coming to our shows and we absolutely love playing shows. But what we all would like the most is new music, really. That's the biggest treat. And
Sure.
it takes the most work. But we had stockpiled a lot of great ideas and it was time to hone in on them and start finalizing things and really just going for it. So being forced to really focus like we were after things were locked down, it was hard and we had to work differently, but it was time. We needed it. So honestly, every time we've gotten to put out a song and share it with the fans and me hold my little flashcards and show them the lyrics and get to see them like it after we've been working on it for a while just feels excellent, especially in a time, like I was saying, like we're so isolated and we're craving
Mm.
togetherness. To be able to share in music, there's a lot of ways to do it. It doesn't have to be live. Sharing a new piece of music and seeing people's interpretations and just getting to experience it together just feels really good. No, nothing but good feelings on that. I'm ready to
Yeah.
do another one.
Okay,
Time to
that's very good.
release the next one.
But that's an interesting thing you mentioned because one of the things is you get to explore a new creative side of you by trying to find new ways to get the music to the people, and for instance by the videos that accompanied some of the songs, and
Yeah.
so what was the perspective there, or just of there's a lot of images of the band just sitting alone, being in this time as we are. So what was it like, kind of venturing into these new creative expressions?
It was fun. It was an adventure. And that perspective of knowing it was like expectation was gone.
Mm.
Um, in that moment, nobody could expect anyone to do anything normal. It was literally just if we can do anything to persevere and create something great out of this time when we don't even have to, we could just stop. Like, is going to be a cool victory. Let's do this. Let's spread some hope and show that we can get over it. Like,
Mm.
let's just make this. And I I really just looked at that Wasted on You video idea as a way. Um, I knew that what we couldn't do was amp up the production and make it some crazy big thing because we couldn't be together and we couldn't get a big production. We couldn't even really be with like a film crew or anything at that
Mm.
time. So I knew that we couldn't do more on that level, but I knew we could do more in terms of letting people in um, to our real selves and our real life and just show a rawer picture. Is rawer a word? More raw picture of who we really are in our homes, like, and that we're, you know, connected even though we're apart. And that really made me feel close to my band in a time when we
Mm.
couldn't be close. So it did both things again. It was soothing our hearts and also making something cool that I think spoke to everybody that was in that situation at that time.
Finally, I want to jump back a little bit to something you mentioned earlier. You mentioned well, about the bitter truth, and kind of what you mentioned goes into the song "The Game Is Over," kind of dropping that facade, and then just being courageous enough to see the real self, your real self. Um, that specific song, because as a person who has been in the industry and has had this public image for a very long time, um, when did that all fall away for you? Was it very early on that you saw, well, this isn't it, this isn't interesting?
What isn't interesting?
Kind of that whole the glamour of it in a way, and being a public figure.
I struggled with it when we were starting out. The fame thing was hard for me. I'm okay. I'm okay. This isn't really about that as much. It's
Okay.
more about just everyday relationships. But
Okay.
just so you know, starting out, I was kind of an introverted, shy, creative type. Um, and I had friends, but my relationships were all like one-on-one style. I really
Mm.
liked having one-on-one time with a friend. Being in a big group, sometimes I get a little social anxiety. That's not really my realm. So being a performer, being a front man, leading a giant crowd, I had to get used to that. That was difficult for me. I love it now. But I really had to grow into being comfortable with that. That's terrifying.
Well,
If you look at it a certain way.
of course, especially, I mean, I've always thought of fame as something severely unnatural. We aren't supposed to be that way in a way. I mean, I think scientifically we were only supposed to live in communities of about 150 people. So that fame thing
Totally.
is just a strange thing.
Yes, I agree.
But let's go into what the song was really about then, kind of the pretending like everything's fine all the time, and perhaps it's more that thing. Um, was it easy to, because you mentioned, well, the ups and downs in your life, was it easy for you to kind of admit those things and accept those things then in a way?
You know, it's interesting. I oftentimes, and the song included, is very self-reflective, and it's me challenging myself to be better than I already am, like to be better than I am. And when I finish the song and it has that kind of a I did it feeling, doesn't necessarily mean that the struggle is over for me.
Sure.
So this isn't a monster I've conquered. This is like a just an ongoing striving like thing. And it's it's saying like, I don't want to fake it anymore. I want to be the real thing. But what it's also saying is I want to make myself um something that I don't have to fake. I want to actually
Hmm.
be the person that I'm trying to project. I want to make it all real, like help me feel better, help me feel strong enough, like I'm saying I am, to handle all these things, because I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling weak and vulnerable sometimes. That's just human. We have to face that. But it doesn't make it easy, and it doesn't mean that I don't like sometimes slip down, you know, into just like being overwhelmed, and then you just put on the face because you don't want to talk about it, you know. um that's just life, that's just struggle, self-reflection. That's what the song's about. Change
Well,
me into something I believe in.
well, and that's the thing, because obviously everybody, especially in this time, I think does a lot, quite a bit of quite a bit of self reflection, and the way I see it, I do have a ideal sense of myself, but it might be unattainable. How do you look at kind of how do you do it in a realistic way, in a sense? Because it's easy to go on social media and say, I'm going to be a better me, and then
Yeah,
so how do you
and
kind of
then you don't.
exactly
And then you pig
exactly
out like a rat in the dark after 9 p.m.
exactly
um i I mean, it's not an easy thing. Are you a psychologist? Do you
no,
have a degree in any? It's
American
interesting.
studies, but it's
I like your line of thinking. Like I think about this stuff a lot.
mm,
To I think that life and the way we perceive ourselves and act, it's 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 evolving, it's a journey.
mm,
But what's interesting is the things that repeat, the things that you keep coming back to. There is a core in you. And there are certain things I think as individuals, we'll always have to fight against some things harder than other for different people.
Sure.
Like we all have our same things that we're going to continue to try to go back to, and those same bad modes of thinking, or I say bad, but some of them are bad, but you know what I'm talking about. Like we have our
Sure,
same
sure.
ritualistic like things, like going over a million
Habits.
things.
You go back to habits.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Do you ever have that thing where you're trying to sleep, and you're just laying there at night and you can't stop just little stupid things to feel guilty about, like
Oh,
that
sure.
aren't even worth it? You're just like, oh, I feel guilty about that thing I did in 6th grade. Like, and they just like keep coming, and you're like, why am I doing this to myself? This doesn't matter. Like, I highly doubt this person in 6th grade like remembers me at all, or this moment.
Like
Like,
something you did
stop
when,
that.
yeah, when you were 10 years old. Nobody's gonna care
It's
about.
almost like I wonder, like, do we get in a habit of this internal self-punishment so that we can feel like I did something good by feeling bad about myself?
I think there must be some. I don't want to, because I'm not a very spiritual person, but I think there has to be a balance to everything. I do believe that. I think if there was no good, there would be no bad. I very much
Right.
believe so. I do think we at times. I'm not a like again. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm just rambling now. But I do think that we can behave somewhat self-destructively at times,
Yeah.
just to make the good times feel better,
Hmm.
perhaps. But
Yeah.
I'm not. That's just
Yeah. It's
what
interesting.
I think.
I don't know. This is a good conversation. We've really taken it way off the rails, and I love it.
I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
So finally, then, because well, there's 3 songs out now. You're working towards that final, yeah, that final product in an album. What how would you describe what is coming? And I don't know how much of it is already finalized.
We're close.
Okay.
It's hard to sum it up, but the past few days I've started really just like trying to put the songs in order,
Okay.
and listen to it as a whole and think about like the journey of the stories. um and it's an exciting time to get to that part in making an album, because you start to hear your album, and get to feel it as a whole. It's very hard to compare it to anything. It's clearly us. um but it goes through a lot. It goes through a lot of different feelings. It goes through a lot of different I don't know, musical places. I but it is weirdly concise.
Okay.
Like it's like, oh yeah, okay, this is from the same album.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I'm close. I'm finishing the last couple lyrics, and we're like starting to do the fun finishing touches stuff, like a little bit of orchestration and some more programming happening in cool spots, and just getting to that last place. So the next song, we're gonna put out another one in a few weeks. I
Okay.
think I know which one it's gonna be, but I'm sort of like, it's sort of a toss up between a couple songs. I should just like hold up 2 fists and a picture on the internet and be like, choose a hand. And there'll be a song title in each one.
Well, because that's the thing. I mean, and that's all the kind of business side, I suppose, picking the singles and everything. But obviously, all those songs mean a lot to you.
Yeah,
Um, and you say you're still writing lyrics. So is it kind of inevitable that what is going on from week to week now is also kind of seeping its way into your writing?
totally. It's not all about that, but
Mm.
the overwhelming the overarching feelings, of this time. Yeah. I've struggled a little bit with letting them invade too much.
Mm,
It's hard because I'm a mom too. So
sure.
between like pouring a lot of energy into the music and loving my child and pouring into him, the time that's left over, it's like, okay, I got to watch the news, and then I'm just ridden with anxiety and frustration. It's hard. So I I've struggled sometimes with being like, I can't watch the news this morning because then I can't go right. I need it to not be about that today. There is something to be said for like shutting it off for a minute and just getting your head together.
Well, I have I've studied journalism as well, and I barely watch or read the news anymore because, like, just like you said, it just makes me depressed. It makes me
Yeah.
frustrated.
Yeah.
So, and then making the circle complete in terms of the bitter truth, I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know who's. And it's
You can
very
find it.
difficult.
It's the truth. It's out there. And
It
first
is
of all,
out
it doesn't
there.
hurt. Second of all, if you hear something that you're like, oh, is that real? I might go repeat that. Go check it out.
Yeah,
Sources can
that's
be
what I do.
track it
That's
down. Where
yeah.
did this come from? Did this come from somebody who could benefit from the story being this way? Like, check into it. I don't think it takes too much work to really see what's going on. I mean, at least in the big issues going on here at home.
Sure.
But yeah, seek the truth.
On those words, then, Amy, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Thank you. Thank you. That was
Um,
fun.
yeah, thank you. It's excellent. I hope everything goes well next week.
I
It's
do too.
yeah.
Of course I do.
I've imagined what it would be like if I was American, what I would think of all of that stuff. And then, like you said, it's not just America, but since that's my interest.
Yeah, that's cool. That's your interest.
But
It's
it's
going to be weird. Long interview about American politics with like not an American.
well, because and this kind of goes into you talking about these politics a lot more, but I used to think that Americans were very reluctant to talk about politics early on, but social media, I would say, has changed that in a way.
Right.
Because
Well,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, you're right. I think, I don't know. This is not that time. We're just living in a new time where it's like, okay, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Like as a
Right.
family, we need to have a meeting.
And especially for me, when Trump got elected the first time, and everything that led up to the years that leading up to that, to me it was very reminiscent of kind of the '60s and then that whole civil rights movement, and then that
Hmm.
there were all of a sudden there were things that needed talking about instead of
That's,
just.
that's right. Yeah. It's felt like that here too.
So that hopefully that's a good thing, and then
Yeah.
we'll
Some good
start
things, some good things, some good music
some
certainly
good
came out of the
music.
60s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if nothing else, we always have good music.
There you go.
All right, Amy, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you have a lovely day.
You too. Take care.
All right.
Stay safe.
Bye bye.
Bye.
You too.